is he the best of the humans or is he the worst of the aliens?
What was our X and Y axes again?
Anybody else sees this picture and thinks, stag do?
We are talking Giro today. I think maybe we should start with kind of the biggest, most recent news, which is that in Thursday's stage, about 2/3 of the way through, big old crash, nasty weather, and Jai Hindley, Giro d'Italia winner, beloved by many of our Aussie listeners, obviously, particularly beloved by our listeners from Perth, which would include none other than photographer Zach Williams, is out of the race. Big bummer. Big bummer.
It was one of those crashes where, so they're heading into Naples on Thursday's stage to take a peek behind the curtains. We are recording this literally just after the crash happened. I know, Caley, you were there trying to pretend, but I'm not going to be able to.
Currently still neutralised.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to remember the tense I'm supposed to use. And so it's currently happening. We've got Primož Roglic being
Honesty is the best policy.
patron at the front. Yes, always. And it was just, the roads are super slick in southern Italy when it rains, and sort of sweeping downhill bend it looked like, and just riders on the deck, and big pile up, no one could restop. So
looks like Hindley hit the deck with his face.
Yes, which is not what's supposed to happen with your face. Richard Carapaz also down, his kit's all torn up.
Yeah, and his whole team was waiting for him. So they've neutralised the race because presumably it usually happens when they think that a lot of people are down, they need to get ambulances to them. There aren't enough vehicles, there's not enough access, there aren't enough people. So yeah. And we've got Primož Roglic as a patron.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yeah, which is, well, I mean, sorry, which is at the very least interesting. I feel like he's kind of been trying to take that mantle for quite some time. And this is the first real time I think
He's definitely done it already this season. Which was the Spanish race earlier. Was it Catalonia? I don't think so. But there was, this is very off the cuff, so I've really not had time to look it up. But there was a race when there was a lot of wind, and they neutralised the stage. He was trying to get the team car to get involved, but they had to resort to the Spanish riders intervening in the end.
Yeah, maybe we should briefly define what the Patron is and what this has sort of meant over the years. I mean, so the classic ones are riders like Lance Armstrong, for example, for better or for worse.
Fabian Cancellara.
Cancellara was the big one for a while.
Tony Martin.
They sort of act as kind of unofficial representatives of the peloton, basically. These days there are official representatives of the peloton because there are riders' unions and things like that. But in real time, it's sort of the biggest, most important rider in a race that will then be able to kind of
or a particularly experienced rider.
Yeah, which is Roglic right now.
Previously, we've seen Chris Froome doing a bit of patroning, but do we think he would still be able to do it these days? Like, when's the expiry date? Do you have to be like the strongest, and then that's how you dictate? It doesn't matter what you've done before.
I think that there's like a respect element from the rest of the peloton. There's also there's some power in the fact that the rider most likely to win something is doing it, right? And so that therefore that power, that bit of it is diminished, obviously, with Chris Froome. We haven't really talked much about his apparent plans to maybe come back next year, but let's not go on that tangent right now. Other than to say, please do not.
No, I want it happening. I want more.
I don't need year 8 of Chris Froome trying to hang on Cat 3 climbs.
I do. It's the most relatable he's ever been.
I guess that's true. Anyway, so Thursday's stage, bit of a kerfuffle. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the finish because we haven't seen it yet. There is plenty to talk about from the rest of the week, though. Let's take it all the way back to the stage that happened sort of shortly after Monday's pod came out on Tuesday, which is when Casper Van Uden from Picnic Post NL took a big old victory for that team. In our Giro fantasy game, which is where you pick one rider for each stage to win, 0% of people picked Casper Van Uden. So I would qualify that as a surprising victory. But it's a big one. It's a really big one for Picnic, right?
Oh yeah, it's very important at this time. We've talked a lot about the relegation transfer, well, not transfer, nothing to do with transfers. The relegation cycle, and they really, I mean, you don't get a truckload of points for a stage, but it's a very important step in the right direction for them. Hopefully, they can sustain it. And I mean, but it's the difference between absolutely nothing and something quite big on a very large stage, which is really, and you could tell that the whole team was just. I mean, particularly Casper Van Uden running around in his cleats and just kind of grabbing anyone he could get hold of and giving them a massive hug it was a big moment for them.
It was a huge moment for them.
They needed at least some sort of moral victory or a victory for morale. Morals and morale are super important. You hope that you know that you can do it. The confidence is there for you to keep on stacking those points. The problem is, I think we've heard this week that XDS Astana, who are looking to usurp Picnic Poster now to survive in the World Tour, they're actually having an internal competition between riders to see who can get the most UCI points. So Picnic Poster now trying to go up against that is quite difficult because there's probably some sort of rule within Picnic Poster now that they're not allowed to
have fun,
go for UCI points or something.
Well, so I mean, Matt Winston did kind of talk about this. I think in the post stage, I think it was Matt that was talking about this, who was basically saying like, no, we're not doing the like Astana chasing points at every single small race thing. Like we are sticking with our plan. We've had some bad luck. We've done X, Y, Z. We're trying to win these races. But they're not shifting their entire strategy in the way that Astana is.
Right.
Which could
so what's the plan there then?
So it could be
that they get relegated because Astana are hacking the system.
I mean,
they're gonna have to
They're gonna have to. They're gonna have to because
they're gonna leave it too late. They've got what 5 months left of racing.
Winning if they want to stick to because a lot of these teams do, the Grand Tours and the Classics are their big movers. That's what they target. But if you're going to get 1 or 2 stage wins at each Grand Tour, you're not going to get enough points.
No.
Yeah.
You need to be at the Central Asian Time Trial Championships.
Right.
Well, this is why this team is so confusing to me, right? Like, I mean, Johnny, you and I have both spoken with Matt Winston of I think a fair amount.
He's a great guy.
Years.
He's a wonderful man.
He's a
I've
wonderful
met him
man
on the back of a beer bike in Ghent.
Yes, that's right.
He sculled an entire beer while cornering, which is very impressive.
On tram lines, if I remember.
And
yes.
we ran into him at a quiet McDonald's on like stage 19 of the Tour de France a couple years ago.
we were at Low Ebb trying to get McDonald's breakfast, but he was going for a Big Mac at 11 a.m. So that's where he was mentally at that point. I'm sure he won't mind us saying that. But peek behind the curtain.
Point being is we really like Matt, and I really like a lot of the riders on that team. We talked a bit about the sort of like the Romain Bardet and then all this stuff.
Sweet Kevin.
We like Sweet Kevin. We like the riders. We like a fair amount of the management. But then we get these like the Kiwi story for anybody who was listening to that episode recently, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. Or then you've got what was going on right now, which is like I think they truly believe that they're a good enough team. And if they stick to their protocol and if they stick to their internal procedures, the points will come. I think that's truly what they believe. I think the problem is the rest of the world is willing to play the game a bit more than they are, and I think it's going to be a problem. And yes, okay, great. Casper Van Uden wins at Giro stage. Huge for him.
Yeah.
Amazing for the team. Really fun to watch. All for it. It's not going to be enough.
Well, and
they've lost Jakobsen as well, and Jakobsen would have been that guy who could get. I mean, I don't think he's even fit. He might not have been winning stages, but getting top 5, top 10 in a bunch of stages, a bunch of things like Eschborn Frankfurt and the cyclassics, the sprinters random one-day races, the Copenhagen Sprint in whatever June. Yep. Those are races, but he's not going to be racing for the rest of the season, and so they have to have rehashed something.
I guess the one thing is they could drop down from World Tour, and they could still be one of the top 2 qualifying pro teams in terms of points, so that you get the invites to the World Tour events that you need. And also, there's quite a lot of uncertainty about a number of the lower World Tour teams at the minute, like your Lottos, your Arkeas. So there might not even be enough teams for that World Tour quota.
World Tour.
No, but like in terms of for those pro team slots, in terms of actually to teams to fill up these World Tour races, they're probably in the back of their mind, they're pretty sure on the invites that they need. But yeah, like the whole like, oh, we're just going to keep doing things our way. The points of secondary consent. It's like being part of a cult where you're like, the end of days is coming, and if the end of days comes and you're right, great, but also it's the end of days. And if you're wrong, then that's kind of like, the whole world keeps on turning, and there's nothing left
miraculous.
for you. Yeah.
I think that's probably enough on Picnic and their relegation concerns, but it just came up again because
big up Castlevania, and they have a Scot who's quite good, Oscar Only.
Yeah.
Just as long as he stops breaking collarbones.
It's the thing that they have a bunch of really interesting, really good riders, and it's just the most confusing team to me. It's just confusing. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, you know what does make sense? Mess Peterson at the Giro. So
yes.
He was prior to Thursday's crashes and things, because he did go down on Thursday, looked like. He was 3 for 5. And that's pretty incredible. And I think that the most impressive one for me was Wednesday, which is also, we're going to talk a little bit about Matthias Vacek, I think, in a bit. But it was just it was a stage where, the finale was perfect for Mess Peterson, but the previous 30K wasn't. And so he really had to dig super, super, super deep and pull himself back into the front of that peloton a number of different times. But he's the man of the hour right now at the Giro. It's a super, super impressive way to kick things off. And
it wasn't like stage 3 when they had that second cat climb, 50 Ks from the finish, and then flat. It was proper Toblerone situation. And he had to, he's... there are a bunch of riders who ought to be, you'd put with Pedersen, who have just not featured at all yet at this Giro. Like you look at the start list and you go, oh, they're racing. Partly because it has actually been quite a tough start to the Giro. There have been very few pure sprint stages. In fact, there's only been one. But he's definitely come into this race with a bee in his bonnet. Lots of wins to be had.
He's doing his best Tadej Pogacar at the Giro last year impression.
I think, he's doing better than Pogacar was.
He's doing better.
He will probably struggle when they hit the mountains, though. I think that's,
probably.
That's
if he doesn't, then if he doesn't, that's Tor Hushovd vibes. There was a comment on I think it was a stage report from the stage you're talking about, Caley, where someone was commenting of whether because I called him the best of the humans at the minute. And someone commented being like, well, is he the best of the humans or is he the worst of the aliens? Because increasingly, this Giro, I mean, he's been that good. Yeah. So where I would still put him best of the humans, I think to be alien, we can't have loads of aliens, right? There's only a few. There's only a few spaces in the ship.
He's also been heavily relying on his team.
Yeah.
Not to say that he's not riding incredibly, but he has been, Little Trek, and we've talked about them.
Yeah, they're strong
all year, but they have been absolutely smashing this Giro, all of them.
Well, and if you take Wednesday stage, so Wednesday stage into Matera, lumpy, right? So there's a cat for about 30K out that got rid of a lot of the sprinters, right? Your Corbin Strongs and your Olaf Koys and things like that. A lot of those were gone, and then there was a couple uncategorized climbs as they came into the finale. So there was one about 4K out, another about 2.5K out, and the 2.5K out one was 9-10% for about a kilometer, so it was nasty. And I think the rider that you're speaking of most directly there, Kit, is Matthias Vacek, who was unbelievable on Wednesday. I wrote a whole story about it because I was watching this, and yes, Peterson was impressive, but I guess to your sort of alien or human point, if Mathieu van der Poel wins that stage, he does it and he makes it look really easy. Right, he sits at the front. He's never further than 5 wheels back. He's just kind of hanging out, and then he sprints to the win. Peterson was not like that. So Peterson sort of twice. There's various terms for what he did here. One of my favorites is the Saturn sit-up, which is an old American bike racing thing related to the Saturn pro cycling team back in the early 2000s. But really, what it was is you start the bottom of the climb at the front of the field, and you finish the top of the climb at the back of the field, but you're still in the field, right? So you slowly work. You're doing 50 watts less than everybody else. I think the TNT crew were talking about this, or the Max crew, whatever the hell they're far these days. They were talking about this a bunch because it was very obvious what Peterson was doing. You get near the top, you start to drift back, save your legs a little bit. Or I think in his case, couldn't go any faster. Meanwhile, while he is doing this sort of yo-yo thing, Vacek is just
keeping
on the
it
front
all together
for like 6 kilometers, right? And we can. Should we pull the video up here? Is that going to work?
You're going to get in trouble.
I'm probably going to get in trouble. Okay, we won't do it. Plus, most people are listening on an audio version. I can't see anyway.
Yeah.
So, the 2 climbs I mentioned, the uncategorized ones. The first one, Vacek's kind of like all over the front. He's chasing down Roglic. When Roglic hits the front, they come over the top of the second one, which is the steep one. Damiano Caruso, former podium. Second place at the 2021 Giro, I believe Caruso was. Super strong rider, obviously. He senses a moment. There's a bit of a slowdown because Vacek's been told to wait for Peterson. And Caruso goes, and Vacek's right on his wheel, right? And he keeps this whole peloton together for this whole time, pulling everybody around, closing all these gaps. And then we get to 600 meters to go. Peterson finds him, and he pulls a 400-meter lead out and drops Peterson at 200 meters to go for like literally the perfect lead out for this finale. It was one of the most impressive rides I have seen, and to be frank, significantly more impressive than Mats Peterson on the day.
Should they have given Vacek the lifetime contract instead of Mads Pedersen? Because that was the story at the start of the day, was Mads Pedersen got unveiled as the latest everlasting contract recipient from Little Trek. So he'll spend the rest of his career at Little Trek. Corrections corner. I broke the news falsely earlier this year that he'd be going to Uno-X. But Spin Zone, maybe it was the interest from Uno-X and Mads Pedersen's form that drove but if you're Mads Pedersen's agent and you're not trying to play off Little Trek with Uno-X, then you shouldn't be an agent. What are you doing? So great result.
Vacek is a lot younger. So Vacek, I think Little Trek would love to tie Vacek down to a lifetime contract. The problem is Vacek is 22 and he's out of contract at the end of this year. They are going to have to try to keep him somehow. And is he still in his Neo Pro contract? He might be. In which case he's probably quite cheap now. And so he's about to get if he's on his Neo Pro contract, which I would need to go double check. He's about to get
I've got his page open already. No, it can't be
10x more expensive. Something like that.
He's in his this is his 3rd full year with Little Trek.
Okay, it must be
he's not in his first contract anymore. But he's still
it could have been a 3-year one, no?
They're usually 2.
They're usually 2, the Neo Pro contracts, yeah. Regardless, he's out of contract.
He was also at Gazprom Risvelo for 2 years.
I see.
So he was pro 2021.
Cool, that's quite the vibe switch from Gazprom to Little Trek, isn't it?
Fella's about to get quite a bit more expensive for whoever wants to keep him. Because I mean, what I saw on Wednesday was it looked like a peak Wout or peak Van der Poel kind of thing, right? It reminded me of when like a peak Wout would turn on the domestique duties, and they're so strong that they can do whatever they want for their teammate, and it is truly, truly, truly impressive. And like to Little Trek's credit, again, we've talked about this team being really well put together in a whole bunch this season. They talked to the TV crew, talked to Maxime Montfort, the director sportif, after the stage yesterday, and he said that the plan actually went to the plan, which is something that's somewhat unusual. He's like, that never happens. Like it never goes like we say it's going to go in the bus. It's bike racing. Of course it never does. But that actually, because of how strong Vacek was, it went almost entirely the plan.
We should give Tom's a nod here.
We should.
Because you remember in the fantasy, when we did our draft, Tom's picked Matthias, I think, Vacek.
He did.
And he pointed out that, so Vacek did his first Grand Tour last season, the Vuelta, and you might remember he came second in the time trial, the opening time trial to Brandon McNulty, and then second again 6 days later to Van Aert in one of the sprints. And now, he's now key part of the Spring Classics team. And so, obviously Tom's is on the same team, so it's not like he's necessarily like the Vacek whisperer or the Neo Pro whisperer or something, but it's, we should have been keeping an eye on Vacek for this exact reason. And he's,
Can you imagine being that strong on a bike?
And
Like,
riding
it must just
somebody
feel
else.
so good. That's just like, Kelly, you're muted.
Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Can we talk about Mats Pedersen's likely trip to a boat?
Well, before we get to the what is now termed, thanks to Martin L, the Farcycle Index, well, the name for the farsometer. I've just got some Mads Pedersen betting news updates. So you know how we were talking about how we couldn't exactly remember the previous wagers that he'd made. But they were definitely out there. So, you know, Anders from the GCN TNT crew, the guy, the Danish guy, blonde guy who does the interviews, who's like, I think, a good friend of Mads Pedersen's. He had to get a tattoo a couple of Tours de France ago.
That rings a bell.
Because Mads Pedersen won a stage. That's cruel from Mads Pedersen, forcing tattoos onto people. Found out, this is a Spin Cycle exclusive, that Jacob Kennison currently owes Mads Pedersen getting his ear pierced because, Jacob Kennison, the Little Trek press officer, Love Island Jacob, owes Mads Pedersen getting his ear pierced because Jacob Kennison did not run his recent marathon quick enough.
Oh my God, that is brutal.
Which is so brutal. And we've kind of seen this side of Mads Pedersen before when he's like, he's been sitting in the team bus and like beep the horn when like someone's been walking past. He's done it to Ronan before. He's done it to like the GCN TNT people when they're trying to interview someone.
Yep.
So he's clearly got this side to him, an impish side maybe. What's the word when you take the delight and the pleasure of others' pain? There is a word for it. Sadistic? Is that too far? Maybe.
Yeah.
But it's on that wavelength.
He's
cheeky.
Jokes. He's
cheeky.
Practical jokes.
Which is good to see because, you know, sometimes professional cyclists, especially good ones, are accused of being a bit robotic. But clearly, Mads Pedersen is just biding his time until his next prank.
Oh, I love it.
Great.
Which is great.
Do we seek out a bet with Mads Pedersen, or
no? I think we should try and
prank.
We should try and prank him.
Wow, bold.
I think it could work. I think he'd like that. You know, he's got all the power. He's on a lifetime contract. He's gonna dare prank Mads Pedersen.
How would we prank him?
We've got a month. Oh no, he's not going to the tour. Damn it.
No, he's not going.
Okay, in that case, we've got 14 months until he goes to the tour next year. We'll figure it out. But yes, should we go through the entrance to the Farcycle Index?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so before we get into the boat thing, the first one is that Mads Pedersen had to wear. I think this was on the stage 4 when we were back in Italy. He had to wear the pink time trial suit for a road stage because his road suit wasn't ready yet. Because when you're in the leaders' jerseys, you're provided your clothing by the race organisers because, you know, the sponsors and whatever. So, yeah, he just had to wear a time trial suit for
he didn't want to just wear his jersey over his shorts for a sprint stage.
What was our X and Y axes again?
It was...
X was farce.
Farce and gimmick.
Farce and gimmick. Well remembered,
gimmick.
Kit. Yeah. So this is just farce, no gimmick.
I was surprised that because he talked about getting creative with some scissors and to cut some pockets into the time trial suit. And I swear that if you cut a time trial suit, doesn't it just go just kind of come apart?
That would have been interesting to see.
Yeah, but the other thing about this is I looked at this and I managed to step outside of my, outside of my normal context. And I just thought, anybody else sees this picture and thinks, stag do?
Which picture's this?
The picture of him in the pink TT suit. It's
in
just
the TT,
our sport is
ridiculous.
True.
Yes. Sorry, I'm with you now.
You got pink helmet, pink TT suit, pink gloves, and he's standing there showing himself off without a bicycle. Actually, at this moment, it just looked like he was on his way between pubs.
Riders, I think the cruelest thing about cycling is actually when the sport makes riders wear their clothing without a bicycle with them, so that they're just like dressed there in cellophane, basically, with no context around it. It just feels, I don't know, they're obviously numb to it. But so the boat thing, this is big news. It was.
For the purposes of people watching on YouTube, I'm currently pulling up the
boat picture.
We won the boat picture, but I just made a chart.
Oh, you
actually
made a chart.
Gimmick and farce. Look at that. Love it. Gimmick and farce. We'll have to Photoshop some heads on and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the skin suit one is more farce than gimmick. It's like over,
I think so.
Over on the right
side.
Somewhere.
It's it's east of
more
center.
Intentional.
Yeah. And then
southeast of center.
Should we open up? Should we take a look at the boat?
Yes. So let's look at the boat. So look, this boat, which is a galleon for those listening, like a 16th century galleon, maybe.
I don't think it's 16th century. It's a bit more modern than that.
Sorry.
Rob Hatch said it was an aircraft carrier. It is definitely not an aircraft carrier.
Rob Hatch
has sails.
So we came across this news, as probably everyone else heard if they were listening to the commentary on TNT during Wednesday stage, whereby Rob Hatch says, after the stage that finishes in Naples, the pink jersey has to go and meet a bunch of VIPs and politicians on an aircraft carrier in the Bay of Naples. So immediately my ears prick up, being like, here we go. Something that's not a sprint stage at the Giro. Did a little bit of digging, made some inquiries. Turns out it's not like an evening on an aircraft carrier, like chop it in instead of sleeping and eating loads of carbs. It's straight after the podium ceremony of Thursday stage. The pink jersey will be whisked away, go on this old boat called the Amerigo Vespucci.
It's actually not even that old. It was commissioned in 1931.
I think I've been on
They've
this.
They've made it look oldie-woldy. You've been on this boat, Caley.
I think the more I look at it, the more I think I've been on this boat. So the Giro started in Napoli in 20-something. 13, 14? I can't remember.
Okay.
The same year that I told that story before about the former national football player who saved me and drove me down the hill on his scooter. Anyway, I was there with Neil Rogers. Throwback, and it was his first Giro. It was my second or third Giro. I can't remember, and I'm pretty sure we had to go do exactly what Mads Pedersen's going to
have to do. We're going
ahead of
press
it
flesh.
was Grande Partenza, kind of it was out on a dock, and I feel like I was on this boat. This is 10 plus years ago now, but the boat looks very familiar. It looks very nice. It looks like if you were going to have a 11-year-old draw a nice pirate ship.
Yeah, it's like a ship in a bottle. Your quintessential ship in a bottle, but bigger.
It's referencing the old ships from the the water.
Well,
it's much more modern. Obviously, much more modern than that.
I must have been getting confused with the Amerigo Vespucci it was named after, which was an Italian explorer and navigator, which I obviously knew without having to Google. But this is peak Giro. I mean, all of the transfers apparently have already been long, and teams haven't been getting back to their hotels until 8 p.m. So this is going to add even more time. Mads Pedersen doesn't really suffer fools that gladly.
But I wonder he's from Denmark, and nowhere in Denmark is further than 30 miles from the sea. So he might be a sailor. He might quite like the idea of getting on.
But even if you're a sailor, you're in the pink jersey. You're probably absolutely knackered because you've been trying to follow Vacek around for 5 days already. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when this news was broken to him that he had to go and meet a bunch of local politicians on a boat. Yeah, it's today. And today the weather's been bad and they've neutralised, so it's going to be an even longer day. So
maybe he will make excuses and say, "Look, my skin suit ripped open. I need to go and have a shower and get patched up."
he immediately just rips the skin suit off as he's about to have to get on the boat to be like, I couldn't possibly come and greet your important people now.
All right, we've got the Farcycle meter up again.
That's looking good.
So we've got skin suit way over to the right, but quite low in the gimmick scale. Boat high on the gimmick scale.
Definitely.
Maybe needs to be. I think the fact that he has to do it after the stage when he would literally be preferring to be pretty much anywhere else other than on a boat with a bunch of politicians puts it maybe further onto the farce side than This could be the sort of holy grail upper right quadrant of the gimmick and farce.
I think you should move it over.
Meter. Okay.
I also didn't realize that graphic design was your passion, Caley. I'm learning new things about you.
Graphic design is absolutely passion. As anybody who's watching on YouTube can see.
For listeners, though.
Yeah, we should try and not do too much video stuff, but that was just a fun little bit. But so the Giro is being very Giro.
Very Giro.
It's all good fun. Kit, you've got a nice note here about Visma are currently 5-0 up in the Yates off, which
I didn't actually.
I'm just so glad.
Somebody else did that for me.
Someone else is on the Yates watch.
I put that in, and I, to be clear, have not confirmed it. I just saw it.
Oh well, I just have. Yep, it's accurate.
Confirmed.
It's true.
Yep, it was.
Oof.
I mean, Simon Yates has finished ahead of Adam Yates, but they are still only 3 seconds separated on the GC. So watch this space.
When will Marvel buy the rights to the Yates twins grown in a lab and destined to finish next to each other in every bike race ever?
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, My Chemical Romance. So we mentioned this story on Monday. The Ineos, our story that the Times stole from us. The Ineos and Total Energies combo. Total Ineos. Which, thank you to Robert on Discord who gave us the name of this. I guess the
nickname.
The nickname, which we're now going to be calling this story My Chemical Romance, because we've got two massive global chemical conglomerates combining in a clearly romantic way. Fusion. And
there's an apprentice word. Synergy, indeed.
There's a couple other sort of like threads to this story that we didn't maybe get to, and I think maybe the most fun is the Remco one, and the fact that Ineos has been tied to Remco a number of different times over the last year or two. They've
been chasing around with a big net,
yeah. It's one of the few teams that probably has the cash to pay out Quick-Step what they would need to let him go, particularly if they pulled in My Chemical Romance money. So there's a couple other things that are kind of going along underneath this, which is who's the Italian? There's an Italian journalist who proposed this, which I think makes a ton of sense. Riccardo Magrini says that Ineos could sign Remco and bring Specialized with him, which makes a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. Specialized likes to have its own riders. It always has. It sticks with these riders, and it actually follows them around team to team. Peter Sagan's probably the highest profile example of this. Demi Vollering, the most recent example of this. And it would make a ton of sense for Specialized to stick with Remco and to follow him over to Ineos. The other reason why this makes sense to me, and I don't think this has been mentioned by Ricardo, is that Pinarello is very likely headed to Q3 6.5 next year.
I think he might have mentioned that, actually.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I
missed part of it. Anyway, so Pinarello heads over to Q3 6.5 because, as we mentioned previously, the owner of Pinarello is the same guy that owns Q3 6.5. And so why not? They have a deal with Scott that runs to the end of this year. I would absolutely expect that they do not continue with that deal. So Pinarello heads over there. They leave Ineos, which then leaves Ineos with a gap in the bike sponsor department.
Yeah.
It all makes sense. It all fits. Do we think this is likely?
I think this is I think it's got every likelihood of happening. I think the other bit of news or the other rumor, I suppose, that I saw was the idea that Ineos could actually change their name as soon as this summer, before the Tour de France, to get rid of the attachment to the kind of problematic Grenadier vehicle.
Really? Where did you see that?
This was Cycling Up to Date, so it's not necessarily. That's why I didn't put it anywhere.
Relatively,
but it's
somewhat sus.
but I believe it. I could believe it. I could believe it.
I don't think
the doors don't work on the Grenadier. You can't advertise a car with no doors.
I don't think that Jim Ratcliffe would agree that the Grenadier is problematic, and it's still his team.
True.
So I don't see that one happening. If anything, the team, the Grenadier needs rehabilitation.
Yeah,
Sponsorship
it does.
Would be used in that marketing effort. Can we mention football really quick? Can we just do a very brief? I sent this to you and Ronan, Johnny. Just very, very briefly, another example of Jim Ratcliffe being
Ebenezer Scrooge incarnate.
Scrooge incarnate. So Manchester United is headed to, what is it, the Europa League final?
Europa League final, yeah.
Is that this weekend or something?
Next week? Next Thursday. Wednesday.
Normally, like, backroom staff and maybe some families and friends and things like that would all, get a free ride to go down and watch the final. Big deal for the team. It's the only interesting thing that they've done all season. The team is not paying for any of that, to the point where the manager has had to step in. Now, granted, granted, these guys are paid in the many millions. They can afford this, but they've had to step in and actually fly staff's family down to this event because Jim Ratcliffe, who is a billionaire with a B,
with a big B,
I think refuses to pay for this.
I think the manager Bruno is basically so sick of the job already that he's trying to like irk Ratcliffe enough to get fired. So he's like trying to make Ratcliffe out to be cheap. Like, you know, when Tony Soprano's daughter brings her boyfriend to the restaurant and then he sneaks off to go pay, and then Tony Soprano loses it with him. He's like, you know, when you have your own family, you pay. I think he's like trying to do a sort of version of this, but with English football owners. The one thing I would say about the Remco Ineos thing, which might prove a snafu, is that he could still go to Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe because they're specialised, aren't they?
They are.
And if they're thinking like Roglic, you know, he can still win a Giro and a Vuelta, but he's going to be done in a couple of years. Maybe they get Remco as, you know, the next guy up.
I think Red Bull is going to be looking at their first half of the season, and unless they win the Giro, which is entirely possible, Roglic could win the Giro, right? Unless they win the Giro, I think they're going to see this first half of the season as a pretty abject failure, and so they are going to
then what do they do
to the transfer market?
Well, I think, I think they're waving goodbye to the Roglic Tour de France dream, aren't they? So having Remco in there as the Tour de France guy.
I mean, great spot for Remco to be in, to have those two teams, because Red Bull have chucking the money in. And if you don't get Remco, who'd you go for? All the UAE youngsters are signed up to like 27, 28. So yeah, that will be a good another agent who would be great to be right now. You know, if you can't be Mads Pedersen's agent, be Remco Evenepoel's agent.
Well, it's his dad.
Good time to be a cycling agent in general, I think. Right now.
Yeah.
Can we talk briefly about the Tour de France and where it's going to finish?
Ooh,
we talked about this previously. We mentioned this previously, but it has been confirmed by L'Equipe and some other.
L'Equipe reporting on what the tour organizers had published.
Yeah, but it's the same company, right? So like they took the press release from ASO and they
shouted across the office and asked, by the way, what's going on with that?
Paper airplane.
Yeah. So I'll say L'Equipe confirmed it. Basically, as you say, Kit, ASO confirmed it. We're going back to Montmartre for the Parisian finish this year. It's still going to finish on the Champs. Yes. We're still headed to the Champs after. Okay. And so exactly how it gets from point A to point B, we're not clear yet. There's a couple different options there. But we do know it'll hit Montmartre.
April. Yeah, I remember seeing it because this was kind of. I mean, it was teased last year when everyone was going, absolutely no chance, no way is it going to happen. And then in April this year, it turned out that Emmanuel Macron had been getting involved because the mayor had been presented with the idea and said, nope. Or no. But then Macron had decided that he wanted to get involved for whatever reason, and it worked. And so the Le Parisien newspaper kind of even put together a proposed route that they were going to take back. So doing 3 laps of Montmartre up to Sacré-Cœur and then finishing on the Champs-Élysées, which will be the 50th anniversary of the Champs-Élysées finish. So, which is so there
fun.
was.
I mean, I have personally lime biked between Montmartre and the Champs basically every year for the last 10 years, so I can provide them some insight into the best way to do that.
Swerving through traffic, trying not to get killed.
Yes, exactly. Well, there's hardly any traffic in Paris anymore. Have you guys have you seen that? Have you seen that the imagery of the pollution drop in Paris?
No, is it huge?
It's enormous. Yeah. It's like orders of it's massive. It's absolutely massive. Every city should be doing this. If you are watching on YouTube, you can see the Corvos image that I just pulled up of the Olympics going by Sacré-Cœur.
Lorena Wiebes.
You were there, Caley, when you were watching.
Incredible vibe. I was not right here where this image is, but
no, you were on the climb.
I was over on the climb. We worked our way into the upstairs of a restaurant where we were overlooking the actual race. It was fantastic. Abby and Child were up there, and we got to yell for Toms, who was in that front group until second to last lap or something like that. Very, very
Fun.
good time. Very, very cool. And I'm glad that the race is mixing it up a little bit. I think it'll make it more fun.
Yeah, I hope it makes it more fun. We don't just get Alpecin de Koning and I don't know who else are the big sprinter teams just kind of blockading on the front. But
yeah,
if you do, you do.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, are we gonna praise television coverage? Because normally we do the opposite.
I've already praised Ineos this week. I'm on a roll.
Okay, let's just do some more praising. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. What do we even call this? So this week, the CEO of Warner Brothers said that actually we're going to go back to calling it HBO Max.
Yeah.
Because for a while they took the HBO off. It was just Max, and everybody on the planet was like, "Why did you take away the part of the brand that everyone already knows?"
What? And they still had all the HBO stuff on it.
Oh yeah, it was just HBO. It was just HBO Max. It was HBO.
Oh
like
my
you could watch The Sopranos. You could watch. Important for me, it was
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Sesame Street.
Sesame Street. How is Big Bird these days? It's been 20 years. No,
well,
25 years.
we're having some. I think Sesame Street is still a PBS thing? So federal funding very much in jeopardy at the moment, unfortunately.
Keep it light.
yeah, because we live in the dumbest of times.
Replaced by the propaganda of Bluey.
Yes. Anyway. So here in the States we call this HBO Max or Max or whatever, and you guys call it TNT. I think it's all the same thing. Regardless.
Most of us don't really call it anything anymore.
Warner Brothers, the organization, the large multinational television media conglomerate that owns the rights to the Giro d'Italia and is therefore using those rights to show us the Giro d'Italia, is doing an excellent job. That was a really difficult way to say that. But that's their fault, not our fault, to be clear. They're doing an excellent job.
They are, but did you see the industry news?
No.
So this is probably kind of film and TV industry news predominantly.
What's happened?
That Warner Brothers Discovery, whatever, is fiddling with the idea of getting rid of their cable channels and sticking to streaming, which is potentially part of this shift back to HBO Max, because streaming is growing and cable TV,
so there's no TV
included. Well, they're just going to get rid of it.
Just on apps, on tellies and iPads and stuff.
Well, or no, they jettison. They would sever ties with the TV that they have gained.
Oh, right. Oh, so there'd be another change.
So there'd be potentially another change, which I wonder if this HBO Max name change is like, so streaming works, and we know that it needs to work better, and this is a way that we can do that. And so they're really leaning into this because the numbers are quite kind of stark.
And everybody wants to be $30 a month. ESPN just announced the same thing. ESPN's going to have a sort of cable-free option of $30 a month where you can get all ESPN stuff, which if you're a sports fan in the U.S. is a big deal because they have lots of the American sports. I mean, eventually we're just going to have to pay $30 a month for every single sport that you want to watch.
Basically. I mean, I don't think we could get away with $30 a month.
Isn't that
we'd have to offer a lot? We'd have to offer a lot more.
Isn't that what TNT is for you right now?
I mean, Escape.
Oh, us.
That is what TNT is now.
I think $30 a month would be a bit much for us.
Yeah. We'd have to offer things that I'm not prepared to do. But okay, so the big news this week internally is that myself and I think Kit maybe have been granted the username and password to your HBO Max account, Caley Fretz.
Yeah, I'm going to watch The Pit.
I'm going to catch Game 6 in the Knicks Boston Celtics series later. But it means that I'm free from the chains of Tiz cycling. But thank you very much, Tiz, for your service.
As are our laptops.
And all the accompanying viruses. But it means that, I've been, watching it properly, absolutely plugged in, using the new quad box, the full screen split of just the cameras where you can change it so commentary or no commentary. Been enjoying hours of Matt Stevens, who is fantastic.
Matt Stevens is amazing. Great. Can I stop you on the quad box thing real quick? So for anybody who's watching the Giro, you probably know what we're talking about. If not, you should go see this. So you have the option to watch the regular feed, which has all the regular stuff, or you can watch with commentary, and you see 4 box.
It's the camera. It's basically like the 2 moto cameras and the 2 helis, and like someone else. But you just watch the feed. There's no mixing in. It's just like raw footage.
It's good and bad because it doesn't have like how many kilometers to go or replays.
EVS replays
or anything like that. But I found
moody scenic shots
for yesterday's sprint stage, for watching particularly like sprint finales where there's a ton going on, it was awesome because you could see in real time a couple different angles. And when I was trying to break down this doing that Vacek story, I was like trying to figure out where and what was happening and what he was doing, where what everyone else is doing, and it was really, really cool. I enjoyed it. That said, I think for the more casual viewing experience, if you're not like totally honed in on what's going on, just stick with the.
I think have both up side by side on your laptop.
Yeah.
The Adam Blythe had a good suggestion that he was just putting on air instead of just going to his TNT bosses. He was suggesting because today you've got the Giro on, you've got the Tour of Hungary on. I think you've got the 47 Days of Dunkirk starts.
Yep.
I think, and then women's Burgos starts, does it soon as well? So there's a bunch of bike racing coming on. There's a women's race either today or tomorrow.
It's Zulia.
Zulia, thank you.
Yeah.
So he was suggesting you have a box per race, sort of like NFL Red Zone, where you can watch as many at one point. I think go a step further, because in the UK, TNT also has a bunch of football and rugby and everything, and you just have different sport per screen.
This sounds great.
Because I'm trying to watch 3 different things a weekend.
If I'm paying 30 quid, you give me 4 screens.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it's like.
But neither of you paying anything.
No,
I'm paying 30.
Well, okay, but otherwise it'd just be sending it through the company, by which way you would be paying for it again. So this is what they call massaging the figures. But because we've been so positive about TV coverage that I'm usually very critical of, the one thing that I do wish that they would take away and not spend your £30 a month on is the filming them reacting to the stage finish.
Yeah, don't care.
Not for me.
Don't care.
Not for me.
When you say them,
the on-screen
studio
talent.
crew. The studio.
Oh
crew.
no,
Yeah. Don't need that.
Sorry, really fond of Orla, but I could do without that. All of that stuff.
But you try things, get it wrong.
So this is the team though. Like this is the team that I used to VPN in to sort of steal GCN to see, right? Because our coverage was so frustrating, and remains somewhat frustrating for other races, right? Particularly for the ASO races. So it's good. I think if you're it's good that you and me we're seeing the same thing now.
Yeah, that actually helps a lot.
The American audience, and the UK audience, which if you combine that for us for Escape, that's 75+% of our total audience.
Synergy.
We're not seeing the same thing, which is nice. It will not be the case though at the Tour de France. We're back to Peacock at the Tour, unfortunately.
But then you get Steve Perino in a paddling pool with a bunch of French bros.
I do love Steve Perino. He's my favorite part. He's by
I
far
like
Christian Vandevelde, and I like Perino.
I'm a Phil Leggett guy till a day.
I love Phil.
I think I figured out I want to be Steve Perino. I think that's my dream life.
We could probably get you on the back of a moto for a day. What do you think?
Yeah, well, and then he lives somewhere tropical the rest of the year, and then just does a few like sailing gigs or something like that. I think skiing. That's it. Yeah, what a life.
Big skiing guy. Big skiing guy.
Anyway,
well done to TNT/Max/HBO/ whatever. If you are charging us an insane amount of money to watch this stuff, at least you're doing a halfway decent job. We appreciate you. We should mention before we wrap up the free part of the show here that there's gonna be a How the Races Won this weekend on Sunday, and Dane is actually technically on vacation/holiday right now. He's going to meet you, Kit.
Yes,
right?
I'm meeting him for a cold beer in a pub called the Von 2 in about an hour.
Oh, let's talk about that in After Dark briefly.
Is it a cheeky beer? Oh yeah, we'll save it for After Dark. Okay,
save that.
Save it. How the Races Won on Sunday. Obviously, Dane will be catching up with Cosmo. That'll be coming out. It'll be Giro focused. Make sure you catch that. Of course, it will be live for members, as always. The link for that will go out on Discord as well as in newsletters. Look for that. You can interact with those guys in real time. Ask them questions. Direct the show. give them feedback, whatever you want to do in real time. And if you missed that, then of course you can catch the whole thing on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. With that, I think it is officially time for us to wrap up this show. If you are already a member, stick around. If you're on the member feed, we're about to head into After Dark. If you are not a member, I don't know.
I don't know what to say anymore.
I don't know what to say to you. Yeah.
Even though we're all sharing one HBO Max login, it's not the same. It's not the same.
That is a massive, massive, massive corporation for whom money is actually not a real thing.
No.
We are a very, very small, sort of startup media company for whom money is a very real thing. And
too real sometimes.
It's extremely real. And we need your support. We need you to help us build a sustainable media company that does good bicycle media and doesn't chuck ads at your face all the time and doesn't do a million top 10 lists just so we can make $5 off Amazon and all the sort of nonsense that the media does these days. We need your help to do this. So go head over to escapecollective.com/join, sign up. You get extra stuff. You get better content. You get no paywall. And you make sure that Escape is strong going forward.
Good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Let's head to After Dark.